The Spiritual Handyman, bringing spiritual tools to the hands of the people who need them. Sponsored by the Eagle Heart Foundation. The Eagle Heart Foundation is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that brings charitable contributions and educational enhancements to the people. So how can you be a part of the Spiritual Handyman and the Eagle Heart Foundation? The Triple Win Situation. This book was written by Granddaughter Crow, and half of the proceeds go to the Eagle Heart Foundation, which in turn sponsors the Spiritual Handyman. How to get it one? It's on Amazon and Kindle for only $9.99. So we are here to bring tools to you. Thank you so much, Spiritual Handyman. We believe in what you do.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Spiritual Handyman. Today, we are going to be talking to Glen Livingston, who is the author of Never Binge Again, and he is going to help us understand how to deal with the internal eating issues that many of us struggle with on whatever level. This is unapologetically not your normal diet book, so stick around for this. It's a great no-nonsense approach. I do want to remind you, you can find the Spiritual Handyman on YouTube. You can also find us on Instagram, Facebook, thespiritualhandyman.com. Any of those places, please feel free to jump on and watch the show. As always, please share, like, follow, subscribe, comment, all the good stuff, push all the buttons, have all the fun, and keep building the community. And this Spiritual Handyman is, of course, about getting spiritual tools into the hands of the people that need them. So that's exactly what we're going to get ready doing here. And I'd like to introduce you to the author of Never Binge Again. This is Glen Livingston. Glen, please introduce yourself to the viewers and the listeners.
Well, that is my name. And I guess the most important thing I want people to know is that I'm not just a doctor who decided to work with people that had eating problems, but I'm someone who had a very serious eating problem myself. I'm 6'4", and I'm reasonably muscular. So when I was about 17, I discovered what I thought was a superpower, which was that if I worked out for 3 hours a day, that I could eat anything I wanted to. So a whole pizza, big box of muffins, many chocolate bars as you could fit in your mouth, whatever you could think of, I was eating it. And I thought it was great. I lived to eat and work out. And when you're 17, that kind of works. But when I was 22, I got into graduate school, and psychology school is really hard. Some people don't understand how much harder it is than other things, but it's really, really hard. And I didn't have the time to work out 3 hours a day. I really didn't have the time to work out 3 hours a week. And I was married, and I had patients, and I was commuting 2 hours in every direction. And I couldn't stop thinking about food anyway. So I kept eating like I was eating, but I just wasn't working out, and I started to gain weight. A little slowly at first, and then it accelerated. And I was very, very upset about it. My triglycerides were over 1,100 at one point. The doctors were telling me that, yeah, it's a big number. It's like the national debt. Just so that people know.
Wow.
Just so people know, it's supposed to be around 100. So the doctors were saying I was going to die of a heart attack, and it runs in the family. So I didn't want to die when I was 30. And being a psychologist from a family of 17 psychotherapists, I took the psychological route. So I figure it's not what I'm eating, it's what's eating me. What's wrong with me? Where's the hole in my heart? And I went to the best psychologist in New York because I had a lot of connections, and I went to see a psychiatrist and took some medication, and I spent years in Overeaters Anonymous, and things would help for a little while, and then it would get worse. Help for a little while, and then it would get worse. And I learned an awful lot. It was a very soulful journey. I don't regret doing it, but it just wasn't working. Eventually, I don't have children, and I never commuted, so I had a lot of time to work on my career. And the other thing that I did was consulting for big companies, including a lot of big food companies. And I saw that they were engineering these hyperpalatable concentrations of starch and sugar and fat and oil and excitotoxins, things that were engineered to hit our bliss point without giving us the nutrition that we needed to feel satisfied. And I looked for parallels to that in animal studies. And what I found was that there was a whole series of studies in the late 50s and early 60s where they put electrodes in mammals' brains, started with rats and then they went up to higher mammals. I'm not saying it was an ethical study, but it was done. And they put it in the pleasure center and they let those rats, for example, press a button to self-stimulate their pleasure center electrically in the brain whenever they wanted to. Wouldn't you know, these rats started ignoring everything else and pressing the pleasure button thousands of times. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thousands of times a day. If they were starving rats, like literally starving, like they could die from starvation, they would still ignore their food and press the pleasure button. If they were nursing mother rats, they'd ignore their pups. They'd abandon their pups to go press the pleasure button thousands of times per day. They'd crawl over painful electrical grids to get to the pleasure buttons. What that showed me was that when you short circuit the machinery that evolution has to offer you for experiencing pleasure, and you overstimulate it, that the result is a neglect of your survival needs. Now, I know that nobody put a pleasure button or an electrode in our brain, but is it such a far cry, is it such a big leap to say that when you walk out of McDonald's and across the street there's a Burger King, or you walk out of a Starbucks and across the street is another Starbucks? Not to single them out or say that they're the most evil or anything like that, but you know, we have all of these artificial food-like substances which didn't exist on the savannah or the tropics when we were evolving, that hyperstimulate our like dopaminergic, and I forget exactly which neurological system it is, but it hyperstimulates our pleasure system, and it causes us to look for love at the bottom of a bag or a box or a container, and it makes people ignore their survival needs. How many people do you know that say, well, I'm never going to lose weight because I don't like vegetables, I don't like fruits? And it creates this like virtually impossible situation. At the same time, the food industry hires packaging experts, and they can package things up in such a way to make you think that they're extremely nutritious. For example, I remember a food bar manufacturer that told me their major profitable insight was when they took the vitamins out of the bar because they were expensive and they were making it taste not so good. And they put the money into packaging instead that looked very vibrant and colorful. Vibrant and colorful in nature signals a diversity of nutrients that are available. If you have a big salad with carrots and cabbage and tomatoes and, you know, green lettuce and red, that variety of color says there's nutrition in here. This is what you need. But they're not giving you that nutrition, they're faking you out, and that's perfectly legal. Then the advertising industry sends 5,000 to 7,000 messages a year about food to us. About maybe a half dozen of them are about eating more fruits and vegetables. And so we're constantly programmed to think that we need this. And the addiction treatment industry says, you can't quit even if you want to. The best you can do is abstain one day at a time. And you need to act like a dependent little child who's powerless over their disease and has to report into a sponsor. So you have all of this mythology, all of this actual billions of dollars poised against us. You have this mythology about what it means to recover. And it's a wonder that anybody really can eat well. So here's the last part of it. Then I was looking at some alternative addiction treatment literature as I was coming out of Overeaters Anonymous. And it was by Jack Trimpey at Rational Recovery. He works with drugs and alcohol, which are largely black and white addictions or things you can quit entirely, whereas food is something you have to take the lion out of the cage and walk it around the block a few times a day. And they do all kinds of really good spiritual work. I'm not poo-pooing that in any way. But what I realized, and he was saying that the problem with trying to love yourself out of an addiction, I'm paraphrasing him, is that the part of the brain that is targeted by addiction is actually sociopathic and doesn't know love. The reptilian brain, it thinks eat, mate, or kill. If it sees something in the environment, it says, do I eat it? Do I mate with it? Or do I kill it? It doesn't say, you know, what will this do to my loved ones or the tribe that I care about, or how does this impact the kind of person I'm trying to be in society? It's just eat, mate, or kill. And so what he said was that you need a much more ruthless and domineering approach to overcome addiction. It's not like nurturing your inner wounded child back to health. It's not what's eating you. It's more like an alpha wolf dealing with a challenger for leadership. And if an alpha wolf deals with a challenger for leadership, what they do is they snarl it down and say, look, get back in line or I'll kill you, right? This is a matter of life and death. And this is the embarrassing part. This is how I recovered after 30 years of suffering. I said, I'm going to make a very clear line in the sand so that I know what's healthy and what's not. So for example, I'll never eat chocolate other than Saturday and Sunday again. Very clear line in the sand. Never going to eat chocolate during the week. Then if I heard a voice in my head that said, oh, Glenn, you should have chocolate on a Wednesday, for whatever reason, because I worked out enough and I could get away with it, because chocolate grew on a cocoa bean, which grew in a plant, and therefore it was a vegetable. Whatever. I'm glad I entertained you. Whatever the reason might be, I would say, well, I don't want chocolate. Chocolate is pig slop. My pig wants it. It's squealing for pig slop. I don't eat pig slop, and I don't let farm animals tell me what to do. And that ridiculously primitive, crude notion, I can't believe I'm up on stage talking about this these days, because I never thought I was going to publish this. It was just a journal I kept. But that crude notion gave me the ability to have those extra microseconds that I needed at the moment of impulse to wake up and remember who I was and how I wanted to eat and why I made the rule in the first place. It wasn't a miracle. It was a slow but sure recovery over the course of a year or two, where I kind of had to perfect the system and figure out what kind of rules you could make and what kind of rules you couldn't make. But I lost my sense of powerlessness almost instantaneously. I said, wait a minute, I'm in control. I just had the wrong paradigm. I was trying to love myself then. It's more like I had to take control of a bodily organ. Like my testicles generate very powerful urges, but I don't go and just run into the street and kiss attractive women. Right? My bladder generates a very powerful urge, but I don't go pee in my mother-in-law's living room. These are biological urges. They've been subverted by industry. I'm glad I'm entertaining you. But I'm making a point, right? This is a real point.
I get it.
There are urges that have to be sublimated, controlled, and directed in the way that you want them to. It's no different with the urges that are generated by my reptilian brain. The only difference is that the food industry is exaggerating them as much as they can, and they're really preying on them. The other difference is that it's socially acceptable to indulge in food. It's not socially acceptable to pee in your mother-in-law's living room. So, but otherwise it's the same scenario. So I don't eat pig slop. I don't let farm animals tell me what to do. That's why I'm thin today. That's what happened. So go figure.
That's a great share, Glenn. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I want to share with everybody that the matter of fact tone and the delivery and the humor of all of the things that you just experienced in his share is exactly the way the book comes across.
Oh, thanks.
Every page has got something to laugh at. Every page has got something that connects with you at a human level. All of it makes very clear sense, and it's such a simple concept, like you said. And I love that you unapologetically tell people that, yeah, it's a pig. I don't eat pig slop. And I think that's really powerful. And in the book, you even address, yeah, it's a pig. Either get over it or don't read the book, kind of thing, right?
Well, I give people some options also. It does work if you call it something different. A lot of women were called pigs when they were young, and it's very uncomfortable for them. Now, you're not actually dealing with a part of your identity. You're dealing with a bodily organ. And by the way, pigs in the real world are very sweet animals. So it's not a totally accurate metaphor. You can call it your food demon. You can call it your food monster. You can call it anything you want to, as long as you get the idea that it's not a cute, cuddly pet. It's not your inner child. You're not trying to nurture and love it.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thanks for the clarity there. I got caught up in the metaphor because for me it hits home and it works.
It works. It works for me, and it works for a lot of people. Yeah.
And I agree with the way you also talked about setting clear boundaries. So I think it's important to recognize that the way you approach the word binge, the way you define a binge, is anything outside of those lines. So help people understand why you took that approach to it.
Okay, I take an awful lot of heat for that. And the reason I take heat for that is a lot of the people in the eating disorders community say, well, if people think that one bite off their plan is a binge, then that gives them justification to just eat whatever they want the rest of the day and start again tomorrow. I think that that's pig squeal in and of itself. I don't think that if you are aiming at an archery target that you ought to fuzzy up the line around the bullseye. I think you need to know exactly where the bullseye is, because like my grandfather said, if you don't know where you're going to probably wind up someplace else. When you make a mistake or you don't hit the target, you're not supposed to say, oh my God, I'm pathetic, I'm just going to shoot all the rest of the arrows up in the air or turn around and shoot them into the audience. You figure out, what did you do wrong? You seem to be the guy that gets most entertained by my stuff.
I just love your humor. Your
I'm
humor
glad.
is really, it's so dry in the delivery. And it fits the subject matter. I've been enjoying it for days now, reading it in the book. So
good. I'm so glad.
I'm sorry, I cannot help but
Thanks,
laugh
man.
about it. It's
Thank
awesome.
you.
So.
Thank you. But it's actually an important point. So we need clarity about where the bullseye is and where the bullseye isn't. People are frightened also about beating themselves up too much if they make a mistake. But see, there's a psychological purpose for guilt and shame, and it's very much akin to the physical purpose of pain. If you touch a hot stove by accident, you need to feel pain. You need to feel pain for a minute or so that it gets your attention as a priority to figure out, how did you miss the stove? How are you not going to do it again? What you're not going to do, what you're not supposed to do, is say, oh my God, I'm a pathetic hot stove toucher. Let me just put my whole hand down on the stove. You're not supposed to do that. Which means that the perseveration on guilt, the obsession with the guilt, the over-exaggeration of the guilt, there's something wrong there. What it turns out to be is that when you are continually berating yourself after you made a mistake, your pig is actually trying to make you feel too weak to resist the next binge. The excessive perseveration on guilt is binge motivated in and of itself. That's why people have to forgive themselves. That's why I tell them you need to adopt a success identity, which means you look for evidence of success in every mistake. Did you have 5 cupcakes instead of 15? Was it a 5,000 calorie binge instead of a 15,000 calorie binge? Did it go on for just 1 day as opposed to 5 days? What was the success from the binge? How can you learn from that? And what did you do wrong? Was it that there was a sneaky thought that the pig got by you and it confused you? Was there a loophole in the food rule that you made? Is it that the target is wrong? Did you not keep up your blood sugar for the day? Or you're not taking enough care of yourself? Did you not get enough sleep? What did you do wrong that made it so difficult to resist that little bit of pig slap at that time? And then you move on once you've analyzed it. Just to underscore the need for a little bit of pain, there's a disorder that children are born with sometimes where they feel no pain at all. And we can't keep those kids alive past 5 or 6 years old because they don't know how to not hurt themselves. So excising yourself of all psychological pain is a mistake, just like excising yourself of all physical pain would be a mistake. But what you want to do is commit with perfection, but forgive yourself with dignity. If you're shooting at the archery target, talk to an Olympic archer, they see the arrow going into the bullseye before they even let go of the arrow. The reason they want to commit with perfection like that is that otherwise they're plagued by doubt and uncertainty. This is a very spiritual comment, actually. The psychology of winners and the commitment to perfection as you're pursuing a goal prevents the monkey mind from throwing all sorts of chatter your way. You're not going to be plagued by doubt and uncertainty as you go along. You're not going to be thinking, well, maybe you didn't account for the wind, and just do the best you can, and progress, not perfection. Progress, not perfection, with hyper pleasurable substances really means I'll just try for a little while until I don't feel like it anymore. This is not without parallel in our own lives. We are used to perfect commitments in certain phases. So you never hear a marital vow that goes something like this: honey, I'm pretty sure I can be faithful to you forever, but there sure are a lot of attractive people out there, and progress, not perfection. I don't want to lie. I'm a human being. I'm fallible.
And you wonder why I'm laughing.
Yeah.
You're really driving home a solid point there that is very basic. It's even beyond simple. It's so matter of fact that it's it's about really giving yourself the permission to learn from that moment and continue in that moment. I like what you said about the guilt, that we can ride the guilt out for the day and start the next day. And you're just starting over in that moment.
Immediately. The moment that you realize that you've made a mistake, then you need to figure out what happened with the mistake, but you can always stop. You can always use the present moment to be healthy.
Right. And that eliminates all of the long-term guilt and the sadness and the depression as a result of that you can go through for the next hours or, days even. So I think that's a powerful tool.
Could I say one more thing about it?
Please.
People are frightened of the word never or the word always. What they don't understand is that we present it to our pig as if it were set in stone. Just like when my niece was 2 years old, I said, Sarah, you can't ever, 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 ever again cross the street without holding my hand. Never, ever, ever, ever. Why did I say that when I know when she's 7 years old or 8 years old, I'm going to teach her to look both ways and cross on her own? The reason I do that is because it's too dangerous for her to even entertain the notion of darting into the street. I don't want her to ever do that. She's not mature enough. Our pigs are not mature enough around these food-like substances. So we can change our plan whenever we want to, but when we say never to the pig, we present it as if it's never, ever, ever, ever.
Right. So in addition to the tools that you've already shared with us and the concepts that you've shared with us, there is a bevy of goodies on neverbingeagain.com. There's food templates, avoiding deprivation, the deprivation trap downloads. There's all kinds of great things that are available on your website. Help the folks understand what might be a great, what's the place to start? What are the first things to address?
All of our free stuff is the best place to start. So if you go to neverbingeagain.com and you click on the big red button, I can get you a free copy of the book in Kindle, Nook, or PDF format. So we'll get you a free copy like that. I also recorded a whole bunch of coaching sessions because I know this sounds really weird and harsh in theory. Here's this sophisticated psychologist, and he's got a pig inside him, and he doesn't need pig slap. And you're thinking, come on, that's ridiculous. I'm going to hate myself if I do this. You won't. If you listen to me take people actually going through it, it's a very compassionate process in reality. So I recorded a whole bunch that you're going to get. That's all free. And I created a set of food plan templates for any dietary philosophy. So whether you're low carb or ketogenic or high carb or macrobiotic or point counting or calorie counting, whatever you do, there's a set of rules that might, I call them starter templates because I don't want to tell you what to eat. I want you to take responsibility, but I'll get you started. So there's that, and then you'll get led to our podcast. You'll get led to, we do have paid coaching programs for people that need it, want more customization or want to do it faster. And we have programs to help people who want to become a coach and use it with their clients if you're a personal trainer or nutritionist or something like that. So it's all at neverbingeagain.com. Click the big red button.
I was amazed at the amount of free content, and it's beautiful that you've taken that concept and put it out there the way that you have. And
I want to help 1 million people a year stop binge eating. So
yeah, and you're on track to do that with when the last number I know of is 1,700 plus top level reviews on Amazon. So I'd imagine that's even more by now.
We have 600,000 readers. We're, I think, around 1,750 reviews. And we're often the #1 book on the free Kindle side for weight loss, eating disorders, and weight management.
That's perfect. And one of the things that I really respect that you made very clear from the get-go was this is about your plan and your whatever diet. This applies to everything. So for me, what you've helped me understand is I can start with one thing, that refined sugar, and just start with that
Yeah.
and work with that to get things rolling.
As a matter of fact, I don't like when people try too hard to lose weight right away. I think that the overcoming of the mental obsession and the sense of powerlessness is paramount. So find one rule that you're willing to execute. You can make it a never rule, you can make it a conditional rule. Conditional rule would be like, I only eat pretzels in a Major League Baseball park, or I only have bread at a restaurant, something like that. And listen to your pig try to talk you out of it. See what happens.
And that was one of the great takeaways from the book that I took a couple of notes on, was that the pig is ridiculous. He is ludicrous, dramatic, over the top, and a liar, and he is not me.
Yeah.
I am not the pig. It is
Yeah.
the voice inside that I have that I've been listening to, and it's a driving factor that we got to eat. I think that point you made early on that I didn't reiterate, but it's not like other addictions. You still have to eat,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And the pig is not you by definition. This is a mental game. And what you're doing is you're choosing to purge your personal identity of all your destructive thoughts about food. You're choosing to do the thinking work that's necessary. And it is a little bit of work, but it's work in the sense of learning how to drive is work. You have to study the rules of the road and practice a little bit. But after a couple of months, you don't really think about it. You define the separation, and then you aggressively commit to the separation so that you progressively more identify with all of your constructive thoughts, and all of your destructive thoughts starts to repulse you. And by definition, the pig is sociopathic. It doesn't care about you. It would sacrifice you in a heartbeat, your health, your loved ones, for one more bite of a potato chip. It's if that's pig slop for you. So it's by definition. By definition, the pig is not me.
The pig is not me. That's
Yeah.
A powerful message, and I love what you just shared. There's a lot of wisdom and simplicity in what you just shared with us. So thank you.
Jason, what will happen with people when they get this right is that all of the obsessive thoughts of the monkey mind with regards to food go away. Because, for example, personally, I don't eat chocolate at all. So when I say I will never have chocolate again, what you're really saying is I'm not the kind of person who ever eats chocolate. And if I'm never going to do it again and I'm not that kind of person, it's like a prisoner that gets a life sentence. There's eventually no reason to hope. And without hope, there's no reason for your pig to throw constant thoughts and what if this happens, what if that happens, maybe you could have a little, that goes away. As do well, how am I going to make up for it? How am I going to hide the evidence? How much weight am I going to gain? Can I really afford to do that? How am I going to lose that weight? All of that goes away. And what you find is that you're more present and mindful, and you've got all this energy to be in the world in a more spiritual way. You can connect better to people, you can make more contribution. Your pleasure apparatus shifts to enjoy more spiritual things. I get a lot more pleasure from yoga and time outside and connecting with my girlfriend and talking to my sister than I do from the food that I used to eat.
And that's also very powerful. It's when you conquer the blocks or the distractions in a certain part of your life, your whole life tends to get better. Everything is impacted. And,
Yeah.
And you've proven that a million times a year, right? So
I'm working on it.
I can see that you're going to get there, and I think what you're doing is fabulous. And I want to thank you for taking the time to share your concepts with us and your wisdom and your story, and providing us with the tools and the link to get more of those tools. Once again, it's Glen Livingston. You can find Never Binge Again on his website or on Amazon. There's lots of free content available. There's no reason not to at least give it a look, folks. It is all free, and it is right there to assist you. You heard Glenn outline that there's additional programs for those people that feel like they might need something that's more personalized or want to do it faster. So there's lots of opportunity there at every level. So Glenn, again, want to thank you so much for being on the show and helping us in kind of a different way to access and enhance our spirituality. I'm rooting for you for a million folks. I know that you'll make it.
But with your help, thank you.
And we will get the message out there for you, my friend. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much for watching and for listening. Glenn, one last time, thank you for being on the show. And folks, remember, you can catch the Spiritual Handyman on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. You can also check out thespiritualhandyman.com. And we are now also on Podbean, which means that you can check out audio-only versions of the show. So go to the website. You can find links for that. Take care of you, and remember that the Spiritual Handyman is all about getting the tools, the spiritual tools, into the hands of the people that need them the most. Thanks, and we'll see you next episode.
Okay, thank you.